Thanks for joining us for Mid-American Gardener. I'm your host, Tanisha Spain, and joining me in the studio with lots of show and tells today are Ella and Karen. Before we jump into all the items that they brought and some of the questions that you've asked, we'll have them introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about their specialty. So, Ella, we'll start with you.
I'm Ella Maxwell. I'm a master gardener in Tazewell County and a horticulturist and quasi-retired, and I have a large yard. I like trees and shrubs and perennials.
Okay, a generalist, right?
Yes.
All right, Karen?
Hi, I'm Karen Ruckel, and I'm from the Peoria area, and I'm a horticulturist, and I love perennials, houseplants, annuals.
All the things. Okay, let's get started because you guys have a lot of stuff to talk about. So go for it. Which one do you want to talk about first?
All right. Well, coming up will be the Fall Equinox. That's going to be September 23rd. And this is a poinsettia that I got from Karen.
Now, this guy's made an appearance on the show before throughout the year.
And it was in a little like 3-4 inch pot. I repotted it. I've been growing it outside. And this poinsettia and plants like it are called photoperiodic plants. They set their flowers based on day length, how long or short the day length is. Another plant that you commonly see flowering in the fall is the mum. And so the mum and the poinsettia can be manipulated with day length to bloom earlier than they normally would following the natural day lengths that you find outside. So for a poinsettia to bloom, and they actually make colored leaves called bracts, but to have that initiate, they have to have days that are shorter than 12 hours. So what commercial operations will do will actually shade them for an extended night period. But your poinsettia, if you have it in a room that does not get extra light, can follow the natural day cycle of shortened days and come into flower close to Christmas. So I just wanted to bring this poinsettia and say, we'll see what happens, and you might see it a third time.
All right, looking forward to it. All right, Karen? So much to choose from, right? Do you want to do a question or just a show and tell? Okay.
Yeah.
This is from Pat. She said, please tell me what these are. It climbs at her house. So what do you think this is? $2.49.
The picture, you're actually seeing the seed pods because the flowers have already been gone, and it's a trumpet vine, Campsis radicans, and it's a pretty vigorous perennial vine where it comes back year after year, and the flowers are typically red, orangish, and they come in yellow and red varieties too.
Okay, all right, let's do one more ID. $2.41. This is from Jonna. She wants to know what the name of this flower is, and we've got a photo of it as well. So what do you think about this one?
That's a tropical hibiscus. So that is basically being treated as an annual outside. Somebody put it in the ground, so it's doing very well being in the ground, but you'll need to dig that up before a good frost if you want to keep it for next year. And you can grow it as a house plant or kind of let it half go unaided in the house or a warm garage through the winter.
Excellent. All right. We've got another ID question, 252. This is from Carolyn Stewart. She wants to know what this bush is called in the attached photo and wants to know if it's beneficial for pollinators and wildlife.
Right, and it is beneficial. It is a gray dogwood, Cornus racemosa, and it has a white flower in the spring that is visited by pollinators, and then it makes a fruit that purportedly is visited by over 100 species of birds. In my yard specifically, it's robins. So we're happy to answer ID questions, but sometimes it's kind of fun for you to go online, just type in fall white fruited bush and see if you can't match it up yourself and learn some more things about it. But it's a small tree, maybe 10 to 15 feet. There are several different varieties of native dogwoods out there in in Illinois here that you can find, and it's suckers kind of sometimes. You've got to take care of those, but yeah, it's nice. Keep it.
I like to, you can use apps too. There are a lot of plant ID apps that you can download, but also if you just Google a picture, a lot of times you'll get some really great results. And I'm always outside in the backyard trying to find out what's what. It's not 100%, but like you said, when you're out there exploring, and you can kind of find out what's growing in your backyard.
Right, and then you can get it confirmed, but
yes.
And you can always visit your local independent garden center or whatever to, ask a horticulturist. That's what Karen and I did for a long time. Yeah. Answer your questions.
There we go. All right, let's do another question for Karen. How about 249? This is about butterfly gardens. This is from Katie Morris. She says, I have a question about butterfly gardens. We planted a lot of flowers that will attract butterflies, bees, and hummingbirds. Is it true that cedar mulch will repel them, or should we use a hardwood mulch? What are your thoughts there?
There's not a correct probably answer, or yes-no answer, or it is a yes-no answer. Yes, there is some properties that could repel. Overall, is it? Probably not. And the effectiveness of that mulch maybe is just a season or two. And here's the bottom line. If you're worried about it, don't use it. And a hardwood mulch might be something that's more locally sourced anyway, so that you're doing a less footprint, getting less shipping of a cedar mulch that maybe is coming down or coming further from the source. So, if you are concerned, just use a hardwood then.
Great. All right. So you are harvesting garlic. Is that time of year?
It is. Well, garlic is actually harvested earlier in the summer, and it's allowed to dry and cure. And we have two types of garlic bulbs here made up of individual cloves. One is a hardneck garlic right here, and if you look right through the center, you can see that there was a stalk. And this is one that will flower and make the garlic scape, which normally you will remove it to keep the bulb large. And then this one is more like what we see in the store and covered with the papery covers. And this is the soft-necked garlic, so there is no hard stem in the middle. Supposedly this one is a little bit more mild. There's lots of different varieties of garlic, but now's the time to think about planting it. And what you'll do is we just break open the cloves. And so these are the cloves that you're going to replant, and I choose just the larger ones. So if it's kind of small, just keep that for maybe processing to cook with. But with all of these, we're going to break them all apart, sort them out. So you can see right here, I've got a really rather nice large clove here, and you can see this is the basal plate where the roots are going to develop. You plant them in the fall, about 6-inch spacing, and then they will actually begin to sprout this fall. You can put some straw over them, and then of course you can, then that'll protect them through the winter, and then next spring they'll start growing again, and then they will make the head of garlic, and you're all set.
2 questions. Do you completely cover them with soil?
Yes, they're actually planted about maybe in the top 2 inches or so, just enough to have the top of the bulb slightly covered here. And
do you want to keep some of the papery coating, or do you peel it all the way down when you plant it?
It doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter? Okay.
Yeah, it'll sprout up through that. And of course, here's one that the bottom is kind of brown. That doesn't look real good there. So maybe, again, you want a healthy, unblemished bulb.
Choose your best one.
Right.
Your
and
biggest
then,
and best.
And then, of course, when you have to peel garlic, sometimes it's hard to get the peelings off. So you just smash them.
I thought that it had a lot of water.
I did too. I was like, oh boy.
I drank all the water beforehand because I was thinking I'm going to do that. So now our studio is going to
I love
smell
garlic.
a little, but that's
Love
okay.
garlic.
So,
Awesome.
yeah, think about garlic. You can find it available to plant. You can order it. You can plant some of the garlic that comes from the grocery store, although some of that has been treated to keep it from sprouting, but eventually it does sprout. And like I said, there's a lot of different varieties of garlic, and elephant garlic is not really garlic, but that's for another time.
We'll put a pin in that one. Okay. All right, Karen, we're back to you. Do you want to do a show and tell?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think we're getting to that point that unfortunately we're having to talk about what do you want to save for next year? What do you want to do or expend your energy on? And a plant that I do that I like because it's no energy involved is keeping my purple oxalis from year to year. And this plant just is such a nice accent with its color through the summer, putting in planters or having it just in its own little pot. So this plant, I overwintered a couple different ways. One, I bring it in before a frost because I don't want a frost to get on this. And I bring it in, I just let it dry down. And the ones that are in pots, I leave in pots, let them dry. Once all the foliage dries off, or sometimes before I chop it off, either which way, chop it off or take it off when it's dry. And then I just let it sit in the basement. No light, no water, nothing, leave it alone. And then next spring, bring it out, start watering or refresh the soil if it's overcrowded. So the other thing is I do plant it in some of my mixed planters. And so I dug it up to show you that if you have it out in a planter, I just dig up the whole clump, put it in a plastic bag so I don't get dirt all over. So this is just the soil from the pot. And then I stick it in a pot so it doesn't fall over. And then I just overwinter it the same way the potted plant, because I'm just
the whole root ball.
The whole root ball intact, because I want minimal work, just tuck it away. So it is so cool how this plant forms, where you've got these rhizome or underground stems with how they grow. And in spring, this fleshy, thick area down here is completely gone. I've never seen it in spring. But digging it up now, there was some pretty good chunks. And these little things on the side, this is what, if I'm going to transplant or start a new pot, this is what I actually will pot up. Just these little itty bitty guys. And so I've got too much of this. So next year, I'm going to need to give away a bunch of this because I've got the clumps outside in my planters. I've got 3 pots of it. I don't know why I have 3 pots of it, but you have it and you give it more room.
You could let it die.
Oh,
Never.
No, we'll find it a new home.
Awesome. Okay, now let's talk coneflowers for a little bit. We've got 2 questions that are kind of along that same vein. So let's start with 236, and I know you guys are both going to talk about these. This is from Rebecca. She says, I've been growing purple coneflower for years, and they come up all over the yard. This year, they had some deformities. She looked up some diseases and just doesn't quite know what she's dealing with and wants to know if you guys can help. And she says it's not just deformities in the flowers. I've read the Aster's yellow causes it, and some first-year plants are even showing deformity as well. So what are some things that commonly happen to coneflower?
Well, the 2 major problems that you commonly see and affect the flowers is the a mite that you said now they're considering some sort of photo or phytoplasm.
No, that's the Aster yellow.
Oh, the Aster yellow is a phytoplasm. And then the other problem is the Aster yellows. The main thing to differentiate the 2 diseases is the Aster yellows is death, and that affects the whole plant. So the flowers will be affected and the foliage. If that's the problem, it needs to be dug up and destroy the plant. The mite, there is some hope removing those blooms that show that, spraying as the new blooms come out. By her pictures, I couldn't really quite tell for sure if the foliage, but if her description is saying that the foliage is affected, Ella and I said it would be safer just to go ahead and dig up those plants and destroy them. Do not.
So that's something you can't get away from even year to year.
Right, it's internal in the plant.
Gotcha.
It lives inside of the plant. It's a virus-like replication, and it's spread by primarily by a leafhopper. So they have a coneflower leafhopper. It would be any kind of sucking insect, potentially a mite, but I'm not sure about that. But more the leafhoppers is what we read. So the mites, though, in the other question that you're going to read.
Oh, yeah. You want to do the other one? Okay,
yes.
245. This is from Carly. My coneflowers have double flowers, and from what I gather, it is due to aster yellow's disease. Pretty interesting, even though I will have to dig them up and start all new. Thought you guys would find that interesting. So
right.
It's pretty common.
Really, what we're thinking for her, though, is that she really has mite damage that caused the proliferation of these multiple growing points to create this really distorted coneflower head, and that it's not really the yellows unless it's also affecting the foliage. Gotcha. Because this disease or problem is inside of the plant. So again, coneflowers are so easy to save seed from healthy plants, start new plants, purchase new plants or whatever, to not worry about removing a few things. And again, Karen has already addressed the mite issue. There are some things with just removing the flower head, some sprays.
Well, and I'd found, I forgot what university it was. They had
Ohio.
on their, was it Ohio?
Was it? Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure. But they had side-by-side pictures of, confirmed laboratory, this is aster yellows or this is mite damage. So they had the different
so
flowers and plants side by side, and it was kind of, to me, scary because of the two diseases, but scary that they are very similar for how they do the blooms. But the key point is if your plant, the foliage is also affected, that's the walk away from it.
So how intense is the removal? Because, they drop seed and they spread, like, what do we need to do? Does she need to try to get all of the seeds that drop? I mean, is this a big removal?
I don't know about seed.
Everything that I've just read talks about just removing the plant and
just
destroying
the plants. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and at that point, I think you've some of those, I'm not sure that they do a good seed, how
or viable
messed up
seed,
the blooms
viable seed at
Gotcha.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We're back to you. You've got another.
Oh, I
one
do.
more thing.
I have one more thing to show. This is a jack in a pulpit. So in the spring, it had the 3-leaflet leaf, and it had the hood, and then this is actually the fruit. And so my husband loves all kinds of jack-in-a-pulpits, and sometimes the deer eat these. But this is in an area where we're protecting them, and now's the time that you can see them, and before this head breaks up, as it normally would do. So inside each one of these little things is a couple of seeds. So we've opened it up here. But what I do is I just cut this off, label it, and put the whole seed head in a Ziploc bag in the refrigerator, and they require chilling. So you could potentially go out, dig a little trench, plant each one, and then this seed coat will disintegrate in the soil, or during the winter, this will keep in the refrigerator my seed moist, because
Gotcha.
you don't want it to dry out. And then in the spring, we just, again, peel them all open, and then we seed them out. But
Yeah,
Have
'cause
you had better
need
luck
more of
doing it
them.
one way or the other? Planting them directly or keeping them in the fridge and planting them in the spring?
Actually, it's been easiest to control, thank you. Here's my Ziploc bag for those to
Always
take home,
prepared.
because I'm not going to lose them. But the thing is that There are some different ones. There's the native one, and it can get rather large, but there's some that have variegated foliage. Some of them that are Asian species have really large leaves, but they all create the same kind of fruit set. And so I germinated some this spring. They just make a single leaf. They last for only, they're almost ephemeral in that they only last for maybe a month or month and a half, but they're growing a very small tuber. So just thought it would be something to show if you're out, you know, you might want to harvest a couple of seeds, maybe not take the whole thing. In my yard, you know, I can save the whole thing, but in nature, you don't want to take everything.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, Karen, you've got a couple more things we want to get to. We've got about 5 minutes.
All right, with once again, with winter coming and plants we want to keep, I do back under one of my oak trees. It's just shady and dry, and I'm struggling with stuff. And I've got some plants planted, and so I put a pot with an annual to pop color back there. And this year I was really happy with the begonia. Of course, I took a picture of the name of it. Now, well, the name of it I forgot now. It was something Upright Fire or something like that.
The picture you sent in was beautiful.
And so, you know, it really helps that dark spot that I'm having trouble with getting a little bit of color. So now I like this enough, I'm going to overwinter. So when we're going to overwinter something and start a cutting, because I can't bring in that big pot, I don't have room, you want to be really ruthless. For some reason with begonias, I always like tip cuttings. But when you're going to do a cutting, you want to take off all the blooms you can see. You don't want any of this because you don't want wasted energy. And then I would do it probably pretty short. You can do multiple sections. Like I said, for some reason with begonias, I like tip cuttings. And then taking off these lower leaves, making this maybe a little shorter, dip in a little bit of rooting hormone, and then putting in your container that you're going to root it. Maybe tent it or put a lid over to help with the humidity until it starts rooting in. And the coleus, this is Peter's Wonder I'm going to keep this year. Same thing. I have really good luck with the coleus that if you want, you could probably easily, you know, this little stem, we could get 3 cuttings quite easily. As they start growing, tip out the middle tip, so then you get 4 sprouts. What I find helpful in the winter with a lot of these plants, the original plant I root in fall, the subsequent babies that I propagate off of the parent plant, this original plant I'll throw away. I'll get rid of that original plant. And that was friends of mine, Roberta and I forgot his name. That
always happens when you're on TV.
They were quite extensive with their coleus propagation, and they found that the vigor of that first plant that you rooted, it was best than the subsequent what you'd take cuttings. So around February, then I'll take cuttings off of this, root them, get rid of the parent plant. So like these that I rooted already of salvias, I'll take cuttings off of these and then eventually get them to like a 4-inch pot that then would be what I would have for the plants for next spring.
So over the winter, you just treat them as a house plant?
Yes.
And, okay.
Yes.
Do you use lighting, or do you just put them in a window?
I do have to use a grow light because I keep them away from where the cats could get at them.
Yes.
And then that doesn't have so much light. So I do augment with a grow light. And this year I need to get a better timer.
Yeah, the one thing that I do when I do mine is I cut these really big leaves in half off because I kind of smush mine all together. And so that way they've got, you know, it's a little more compact.
Well, and the less they have to transpire, the easier, once again, that looks really wicked, to then root. But the coleus will root really easily.
Gotcha. Okay, we've got 2 minutes left. Let's talk tomatoes on our way out. This is from Darcy in Urbana. She's been growing Cherokee Purple heirloom tomatoes for the past 4 years and saving the seeds. This year, they look different, she says, and she kind of wants to know why. She said 1/3 of the plants have some of the characteristics of the original, but nothing like how they've been in the past. So scientifically, what's going on here, ladies?
Scientifically, what's going on is she's planting more tomatoes than just Cherokee Purple, and there's some cross-pollination, and then that seed that is set has a little bit different genetics. Now, if she was only growing Cherokee Purple, and that is an heirloom tomato, and it should be stable, but she's saying, well, now it's not the same anymore. Well, somewhere close in other tomato plants or right next door, there's some other genetics coming in. So the best thing that she can do is buy the seed for Cherokee Purple from a a good source and start again. And then she can keep those seeds going, but once they start to change like that, you don't know what you're going to get. So it's the same way with the seeds that come up in the garden. Do you want to save some of those
volunteers
yes.
that you get?
Right, which are usually in my garden cherry tomatoes. You know, you don't know what they're going to be, but it's kind of fun to keep one.
It is.
But, you know, she's invested an awful lot with having a third of her plants not being very, well, maybe they are productive. Maybe she's going to have a really great new tomato that she really wants.
Well, we'll have to leave it there. Good luck, Darcy, with your tomatoes next year. Thank you guys so much. Always a pleasure when you come in. Everyone learns so much when you come in. They love hearing from you. And thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time. Good night.